Welcome to our History channel. History too real for the Westerns. Don't forget to click like, share, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and leave us a comment if you like this story. Tonight's episode, the California Gold Rush. Northern California, January 24th, 1848. On this chilly morning in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains, James W. Marshall was heading a crew of local workmen in building a sawmill for Swiss immigrant and local entrepreneur John Sutter. That morning, as he walked along the American River that ran below the mill, he noticed some shiny specks in the water. Marshall reached in and plucked a few out of the frigid current to examine them more closely. Marshall prided himself on having at least a base working knowledge of minerals, and knew that if, by some odd unforeseen turn of fortune, it were gold, that it would be malleable. Marshall, born in 1810 in New Jersey, had come to California to start his own ranch. He had counted on California being annexed from Mexico, which had just recently happened in the Treaty of Hidalgo of 1848, which ended the Mexican-American War and ceded Alta, or Upper California, to the United States. He had come to this place, just east of present-day Sacramento, in the rolling foothills which turned into the peaks of the Sierra Nevada mountains, and sought employment with Johann Sutter. He eventually saved up enough to get his own property, but fell on hard times and was again looking for Sutter, still intent on making his own fortune, but unsure how he ever would. But he figured it was worth a shot to at least bash the shiny nuggets he had found between two rocks. If they broke, which they likely would, they wouldn't be gold, but most likely pyrite, and he could go on back to his job like any other day. But the pieces didn't break. They could be beaten together and molded into shapes. This, Marshall was now sure, was gold. He took it to his boss, Johann Sutter, and the two went to a nearby town where further tests were conducted to confirm the men's hopeful suspicion. These two confirmed that what Marshall had found that morning on the American River was indeed gold, and California was going to change forever. Towns from San Francisco to San Diego were emptied almost overnight as hordes of people made their way to the Sierra foothills. While word took months to reach the East Coast, it sparked a near-instantaneous outbreak of gold fever, sending many a young American into a frenzied scavenger hunt to acquire money, passage, equipment, or all of the above. And while it's a common misconception that the gold rush was a strictly American phenomenon, word of gold in California spread worldwide, reaching some places like Mexico, Chile, and Australia before it ever even got to New York City. Ships crowded the harbor in San Francisco as immigrants turned miners crowded rapidly into the city, just long enough to flood the local businesses with money and construct shoddy, improvised wooden buildings that caught fire constantly. But before most buildings could even manage to burn to the ground, the new Californians were rapidly on their way east, to the gold fields. Many had made harrowing journeys, and many who had begun those journeys did not live to see California, much less make it to the gold fields. They came from the East Coast, from the South, from the Midwest, from cities large and small, and backgrounds rich and poor. They came from Mexico, Chile, Venezuela, Argentina, Hawaii, then known as the Sandwich Islands, Australia, New Zealand, China, Canada, France, England, Germany, Russia, Italy, Sweden, and Portugal, just to name a few. The estimates are around 300,000 people in total, all in a mad dash for cash or gold, which, to say the least, took its toll on California's infrastructure, on its native tribes, on its geology, and even topography, as the course of entire rivers would be altered and entire tribes displaced. The ubiquitous hulking grizzly bear, so numerous and pervasive in California that they put it on the flag, would be eradicated from the state entirely in less than 75 years. But this was a uniquely equitable opportunity at the time, one that afforded untold fortune to those who were willing and able to pry gold from the earth's insistent grip. For essentially all of those present, this was an all-or-nothing proposition, an opportunity to get rich or die trying. Thus, there was no time, they rationalized in their fervor, to be concerned with anything outside of the acquisition and accumulation of gold. To modern sentiments, this may seem a harshly pragmatic or destructively capitalistic notion, but one must understand the undeniable and brutal facts that life was hard and people were poor, and gold could prove a quick remedy to both of those conundrums. As the droves of miners, almost entirely men aged 20 to 40, poured into the foothills of the Sierra Nevada, they concluded journeys more harrowing than most had ever experienced in their lives. Most Americans arrived via one of two routes, either on ship leaving from the East Coast and heading all the way down and around South America and Cape Horn, and of course the overland routes like the Oregon Trail, and both took months and getting. There was less than half the battle. There was still lots of work to be done. The luckier or more thoughtful prospector was equipped with a shovel and a gold pan. Some techniques, such as sluice boxes, where dirt would be dumped into a mesh screen and washed and sifted while looking for gold, would make the process slightly more economical, but largely their days were spent hunched over, ankle-deep in cold water, sifting pan after pan of rocky sediment, hour after hour, day after day, moving tons of rock, silt, soil, and sand. Temperatures in the foothills could shift and swing wildly, blazing hot days leading into freezing cold nights. Food was whatever was cooked, often eaten out of cast iron pans on tree stumps. Work would continue throughout the seasons as men came and went, and dreams were made and, far more often, broken. The real money lay in supplying the prospector with all the essentials he would need. Countless fortunes were made selling prospecting equipment, and much appreciated and often exorbitantly priced hot meals. After a full day, in a frigid stream, sifting through rocks, many a man was more than happy to pay 3, 4, even 10 times the going normal rate for routine services and minimal luxuries. Law enforcement, sanitation, and civil services were all but non-existent. Many a quarrel over a gambling debt, a drunken insult, or gold claim resulted in a death at the end of a revolver or the blade of a knife. Justice was as ad hoc and swift as the construction of the shanty towns over which it presided. Vigilante groups hung so many criminals in today's Placerville that it was first known as Hangtown. Though really, it's a beautiful place, quite wonderful in the autumn. But I digress. As the hundreds of thousands of miners combed through the gold fields, they quickly learned that life spent in search of a quick way out often ended up in more work and worse conditions than they were used to in the first place. And while some did manage to strike it rich, many, through either choice or necessity, moved on to settle the wild new state. The gold rush left an indelible mark on the legacy of California, giving it its noted pioneer heritage, its nickname, and, of course, providing the inspiration for the name behind the team, Joe Montana, led to 4 Super Bowl titles, while also becoming the first 3-time Super Bowl MVP of the San Francisco 49ers. And that is how California started. Well, not really. It's how the state of California was founded. Before it was ceded to the U.S., Alta California was home to hundreds of indigenous tribes, as well as a people known as the Californios, immigrants of Spanish settlers who had occupied California for centuries by the mid-1800s. They lived lives of infamous opulence and leisure, and their influence is seen everywhere in California, from names of the cities like Los Angeles, San Clemente, San Luis Obispo, San Diego, Modesto, Monterey, only to name a few. Oh no, they were fascinating characters, whose men were unmatched on horseback, and whose women unmatched on the dance floor. But that is another story for another time. Thank you for tuning into this episode of History at the OK Corral. If you like this topic and want to learn more and find even more podcasts about conspiracies, history, music, news, sports, and entertainment, check out the All Damn Night Podcast Network at alldamnight.com. You can browse lots of free content for free or sign up for unlimited bonus content, which is hours and hours more of deep dives on the topics you know and love, all for only $5 a month, which is like, I don't know, 16 cents a day or something. It's really, really cheap. You get a week free trial if you sign up today, satisfaction guaranteed, or you can cancel any time. Check it out today. And before we go, if you're anything like me, you probably don't have as much free time as you'd like to kick back, relax, and crack open one of the many books on your shelf that you bought and planned to read, but just haven't found time to get around to yet. Thankfully, I found Audible, the unrivaled audiobook platform. It allows me to do most of my research for this program directly from their app. If you're interested in doing your own deep dive on any of these topics that we've covered here on the podcast, or any of our other podcasts, check out my reading list on alldamnight.com. Every title listed there is available on Audible as well. Sign up for Audible using our link in the description, or use promo code ALLDAMNIGHT in the checkout. That's promo code ALLDAMNIGHT. You'll get your first month completely free, and that includes a credit for any audiobook you choose. Join Audible, and you'll hear what you've been missing.